Greetings, brothers and sisters. One of my major concerns, and it may even be the most major concern I have as pastor for our church, is that we all of us tend to do this, have what I call a God reducer. What I mean by that is we usually sort of bring God down to something we can conceive of, someone we can live with. And the problem with this is that God is eternal. He's above and beyond everything. He is holy. And whenever anybody encounters God or Jesus, I mean, Jesus is Yahweh, the God of the Old Testament, okay? It's never a casual thing. You know, I came from the Baptist tradition, and the Baptist tradition basically had a God reducer. God is my friend, right? He redeemed me. We're buddies now. And we can sing our hymns of praise and stuff, but something similar, I think, has happened, in our church over the years, and where the emphasis is on, hey, this is all about fellowship with one another and fellowship with God, right? Well, certainly that's a part of it, but it's not biblical. And it's not really according to the teachings of the church. We see this in our Old Testament reading, where we have Abraham in the covenant in chapter 15. If this doesn't inspire terror and you're using your spirit guide imagination, I don't know what it would be. Okay, see, God is entering into covenant, and the covenant was done according to the way they did covenants back in the day. They would cut animals in half, and the two people who are going into this covenant, the parties, so to speak, would pass through these pieces. And they would recite the terms of the agreement. And they were really saying, if I break this, or either one of us breaks this covenant, the terms, then may what happened to these beasts happen to me. Well, that would make you think twice, wouldn't it? If you're going to break the terms of a covenant. But as I said many times before, nowhere else in history does Almighty Creator God enter into covenant with his people. Gods never did in the pagan world enter into covenant with people. People didn't matter. Okay? But people matter to God because he created us and he created us in his image, and they have a relationship, right? And so he does the most amazing things, enter into covenant. And it wasn't like signing papers. Okay. They did the ritual. Abraham cut the animals in half, and then he was set at the side, and when it was time for Yahweh to come, he fell into a deep sleep. He was incapacitated. And a deep, horrifying darkness came over him. And the most strange paradox about Yahweh is when he appeared to people in what's called a theophany, it's always this bright and dazzling, uncreated light, but it's always shrouded in darkness, lest that light would destroy Abraham or whoever he's encountering. That's how terrifying Yahweh is. Okay? How do you become friends with something like that? Right? So, Yahweh passes through the pieces in this furnace of of burning, uncreated light. And it's only he who passes through pieces. This is a covenant of grace. Because Abraham is incapacitated. And what he's really saying is that I'm going to do this, Abraham. And if it doesn't happen, may what happened to these animals happen to me. And so the whole thing is terrible and yet beautiful. It's no joke entering into a covenant with God. His zeal for us is downright scary. So we see something like this in the New Testament at the Transfiguration. Jesus takes Peter, James, and John up to the top of a mountain. Mountains are important in the Bible. Big things happen on the mountains. Okay. And lo and behold, Jesus is transfigured before him. His garments are white beyond anything of earthly description. His glory is shining out. Now, it's interesting that the disciples also fell asleep. There's that parallel with what goes on in the Old Testament. They kind of woke up, enough to see what's happening, and for Peter to sort of mumble an idea. Well, let's make a booth, or what that really meant is like a little temple for each one of you. That's what the ancients thought. Whenever they had an encounter, they made a temple where they'd come in pilgrimage and so on and so forth. Well, anyways, having said this, a deep, dark cloud descended on them, just like with Abraham. And they heard the Father speak to the Son. And they were terrified. So, all this to say that we have to learn how to enter into the reality of God as described in Scripture, in these accounts, with holy imagination and prayer, and just learn how to fear God, fear in the best sort of way. And even awe is not strong enough. The mysterium tremendum, the mystery that's terrifying. It's and that's why we are doing a shift in our liturgy into over the last years, ever since I've been here, and with the music and everything, to try to get us to train our minds that Jesus is our friend, but he's far more than a friend. He's a king. Rex tremende majestatis, a king of awful majesty. So this is a good Lenten text for us to meditate on, so that we might be aware of our God reducers, get rid of them, and realign our minds and hearts to who God really is. See you on Sunday. God bless.